what I'm about to say is, if she checked all your policy boxes, would you vote for her over Trump?
Well, she doesn't check. I mean, she's dead set.
I'm just saying, because she hasn't come up. It's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this.
It's a hypothetical.
I'm going to vote for the candidate who I believe has the best policies for the United States of America and who has some basis to carry them out. In my mind, that's exactly why I'm voting for Trump. That's exactly why I'm voting for Trump.
I mean, again,
so if somebody and Trump and I don't agree on 100% of policies. I mean, I ran for president last year, for God's sake, right? And there's some areas where he and I have had open discussions where we have slightly different views. And that's great.
But again, let's just say that list of policies you have in your mind.
I will vote for the candidate who I believe is committed to enacting the policies I agree with for the United States.
So Vivek Ramaswamy recently did an interview with arrogant liberal billionaire Mark Cuban, who has recently been celebrating how much he loves diversity policies in the workforce and how much he loves paying taxes, which is a weird flex, but I don't know. But if you saw a couple of months ago, Mark Cuban went on this huge Twitter tirade where he was defending DEI. He said DEI is good for business, it is good for companies, but the arguments he made in favor of diversity, equity, and inclusion actually had nothing to do with DEI, right? His whole argument is, well, obviously you should pick the best person for the job, and sometimes you want a diverse array of skill sets in your workforce. You don't want the people to all know how to do the same thing. You want to diversify, to which I say, that's not what DEI policy is, right? That is an argument for the meritocracy, that you should hire the best people based on their skills. And that's what Mark Cuban apparently thinks DEI is. And then the conservatives and Elon Musk and all these people were trying to explain it to him, and he still didn't get it. So that said, we're going to react here to Vivek Ramaswamy try to debate Mark Cuban on DEI. But I say try because Cuban is incredibly stubborn and just straight up has no idea what he's talking about. So folks, if you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you are new, and without further ado, let's get into this. Here's Vivek versus Mark Cuban on diversity policies.
All right, so let me give you, without using the word DEI, because it's just so tired.
You can use DEI, that's fine.
I don't like using it because it causes, especially for somebody I might disagree with.
I like using it. I got no problem with it, even though it pisses people off. That's what makes it more fun.
Well, let's use DEI then, fine. So let's say in the name of DEI, right, Pfizer, this is an example I gave you, we started talking about it. Pfizer sets a target. You can call it a quota, call it a target. Pfizer sets a target. But it is a very precise numerical target. Now, and this is not picking on one company.
Well, it's percentage. It was a percentage, right?
They're in an industry that I know well, but this is representative.
And I know that industry well too.
Yeah. Right. So it's an industry we both know well. So we're picking this example, but this is not unique to Pfizer Healthcare. It's true across every other industry.
IBM has done it. Others have done it.
Right. Something to the effect of, and people can look up the exact what it is, but the punchline is 32% or so was the number for minorities in certain corporate vice president levels or above. I get it approximately right. Look up exactly what the details, but suppose it's 32% in vice president level corporate executives or above by a certain year in the future. That's a corporate target that they have set. It's my belief, right, that these types of demographic goals, if that's your basis for setting a target, that is incompatible with pure meritocracy, where
absolutely not.
Yeah, and that's where I know you disagree, right? So give me your view.
Sure. So targets are one thing, right? They're not a quota. If it was a quota, you would be able to. Let me take a step back. There are these things called EEOC reports, right?
Where Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That's what it is. Yep.
Right. Where they actually have to disclose the numbers for those vice president positions by male, female, white, black, Asian, other races, and biracial, right? And so they have to disclose them, and not all companies do. They have to report it. They don't have to disclose. Not all companies do, but Pfizer does. And when you go and actually look at the numbers on the EEOC report, they're nowhere close to those targets. And in fact, in some years, they actually reduced the number of people you would think would benefit from DEI, right? Based off of the traditional DEI views.
And that's accurate. Americans, what you just said is accurate. It's fact.
Right.
So why bother to specify that target or goal in the first place? Because your point is they're not even meeting it. And you're right about that in many companies.
When you say they're not meeting it, that's just confirmation that it's not a quota. Because a lot of people will take that number and project that as a quota. Why would they do it? It's a quota, but they never meet it. None of the companies ever meet it.
What's the purpose of setting that goal on the basis of race or gender in the first place, Mark?
Exactly. If you're not going to meet it, then what is the purpose? But I would also point out, even if they don't exactly hit the quota or the target, is it possible, if there's an equal employment commission and all this stuff, that there could be pressure to potentially hire people who are minorities who would otherwise be unqualified, which still, even if you don't hit the exact target of DEI or affirmative action, the whole point is we shouldn't even be assessing these things when it comes to the workplace. But that's just my thoughts.
First, when you talk about portfolio management in your company, right? And you talked about you're going to have failures and you're going to have successes. And you probably had a target for your return on equity that you wanted to get, right? And so you said, I've raised this money, I'm investing this money, we're going to have hits and misses, and our target return is 23%. Same thing, right? Companies, good companies look at their employees as capital, right? As intellectual capital. Yeah. And where you want to have a better portfolio outcome for your intellectual capital, there's certain things that you want to see happen. One of them is diversity. And now when I talk about diversity, and I've put this up on Twitter, that means going out there and just like you look for the best ARBs across all bio companies, right? You didn't care where they were located, looking for the best employee, the most capable employee means turning over rocks where other people don't look. And
that's meritocracy, Mark Cuban. Do you understand that? That's the opposite of DEI. What did he literally just say? He said, finding the best employees. So that is what are you talking about? Like, see what I mean? He just keeps hammering home, it's DEI, it's DEI. It's not DEI. You're arguing for meritocracy. Does he understand this?
You probably found some of your best deals by looking where others don't look. And I found some of my best employees by looking where others don't look.
Why denominate? I agree with you so far, but why denominate it based on race? Why take this top-down category that and I'll tell you why it gets under my skin is, I think it causes us to be more divided when we see each other on the basis of our skin.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. Okay, so let's go to your point, right? Yeah. Let's go to your question. Let's just say I'm looking at a drug company, Roivant. How did you pronounce your company?
Roivant was my first company. Yeah.
Roivant, right. So I have Roivant. And I recognize that for cancer drugs, they're all ignoring them. Everybody's ignoring cancer. So I'm going to set a target for cancer drugs because I know everybody else isn't looking there. Yeah. They're missing it. And so I'm going to go where these cancer drugs are being made, where they're not making enough an investment in them. And I'm going to go to focus, not necessarily focus there, but I'm going to extend my ARB reach and my look to include those cancer drugs from companies I think don't do a good job of figuring out the value in that drug. That is what D in diversity is. It's saying, look, there's a lot of women, Black, Asian, whatever it may be, people that I think are not being recruited. That there are a lot of people who may not have the best test scores from the best school, but they may have a lot of soft skills from their experiences. And
if they have skills, then it's not DEI. Again, it is meritocracy. Like, how many times do we have to say this? What, like, Mark, he's like talking to a brick wall.
What's the E?
Okay, well, let me finish this point, right?
Yep, we'll play forward.
So I'll get to the E, right? I'm going to go and find the best possible candidates that I can. And they're going to compete with
I'm going to find the best possible candidates that I can. Then that's not DEI. That's not affirmative action. That's not any of these.
Everybody else. Just like when you at Roivant, you compete with your cancer drugs, have to compete in potential return for the non-cancer drugs, right? And so in my diversity, when I go out and I look at this, I'm going to say this person, this woman, African-American woman who was from this small school that I've never recruited at, she's brilliant. And when I compare her to other people that I might hire, she's better. Now, this other person, African-American, another small school I typically don't recruit at, they may not be good enough. I'm not going to hire them just because they're Black from a small school that nobody else recruited at. They have to qualify. So then when I hired this African-American woman from this small school, because she has amazing soft skills, maybe not the best test scores, that's where equity comes in, right? Equity means putting people in a position to succeed, giving them the tools that they need. So
that's not what equity means.
She might have soft skills I invested in this company called Scoutable, right? Scoutable.com. And all they do is they have people play these games. And when you play the game, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people have played the game, it helps you it does, based off the results in the past you take, they'll compare them to other successful people in other vertical areas, right? Programming, bio, and they'll look for similarities. They'll do a statistical analysis and they'll say, look, this person who we found in the middle of nowhere doesn't have a computer science degree, but the soft skills that they have matches up perfectly to our best programmers. Okay. So we're going to take a chance on that person. And the equity is, the E in equity says, we're going to give them extra computer training because we know based off of the data that we're using, they're very capable in ways other people aren't going to find the diversity. And we're going to give them the tools to put them in a position to succeed.
So again, I mean, Mark Cuban is making the argument we should hire people based on their skills. And sometimes you look for things that are unconventional. Maybe you don't always hire from someone from the top school or test scores. There's on-job skills, or maybe there's intangibles they have that you recognize that other people might not recognize. Okay, that's not DEI. Like, how many times do you have to say this? That's not DEI. You have these skills you look for. You hire people based on their merits, but maybe the merits are not always like the same metrics. Maybe they're not always about academics. Fair enough. The whole premise of DEI is and the conservative problem with it is hiring people who are unqualified simply because of racial characteristics or gender or whatever it is. If you're not arguing for that, then you're not in support of DEI, okay? Or at least, like, you're not in a place to attack or argue with the conservatives on DEI, because nobody has an issue with these hiring practices. What we're saying is that's not what diversity, equity, inclusion, or affirmative action, or whatever you want to call it, that's not what that is, okay?
Here's my own just view on, getting to the best answers on anything, right? You got to try on the other side like a set of clothes. Trying the best argument for the other side like a set of clothes, and if it fits, you keep it, and if it doesn't, you put it back on the rack.
You iterate, yeah. You iterate.
So
right. Always iterate.
I appreciate a lot of what you laid out. I think it's an interesting perspective. I'm doing my best to try it on. I'll tell you why for me it feels like it doesn't fit. Okay.
Sure.
Is when I look at the results. Now here's where you can measure the results. I'll give you a couple examples. So give you a couple examples in response. One is, one of the areas where you look at results of whether you believe you actually have a true meritocracy or not, where you could actually get the actual numbers to do this, is when you apply that same philosophy to the level of universities. So I know you're talking about it from the level of
Two different worlds. Okay. Two different worlds.
All right, so you do have different views then. You do have different views.
Oh, yeah. Look, I think I've said this online, too. You think about
the number of kids who are like Asian kids who can't get into a university because they got a 1600 on their SAT.
Two different worlds.
Good at sports, good at musical instruments, and can't get to the end of their safety school. That is a direct product of a lot of the targets, even not hard quotas, but soft targets that these universities have set.
Right. Academics are different because the goal is different.
All right, so we're on the same page. So we're already on the same page there. All right. So universities.
So you're agreeing with me that DEI. So first of all, let's make sure we're on the same page. You're agreeing with me that DEI is good for business.
No, I'm not agreeing with you there. I'm not agreeing with you.
I didn't hear any.
Well, because I was going to go to the universities, but it sounds like we agree on the universities. But let me.
Look, if it were up to me, universities have too much overhead.
So I think here's what I would say is on your definition of DEI and the way you define it, which I believe is quite different and far more sympathetic, to me at least, than the accounts that you might hear from other proponents of capital D, capital E, capital I.
Right.
But on your telling of it, my pushback would not be that I disagree with a lot of what you said, but that it then makes DEI redundant. Okay, because if you're running a business, well, let's just go back to that sole metric that you evaluated in the first place, which is maximizing your return on equity.
Right.
If that's your actual metric that matters, there are a million different targets that need to roll up into that.
Of course. And they're not mutually exclusive.
And of course, and it's different for different companies, right? So my view is it's got to fall out of the mission. It's got to be mission driven by the company. So every company.
Of course it is.
Yeah. So
of course it is.
If I may, right?
So and when you go ahead.
Yeah. Just to make sure we get the view on the table, because it's not the classical disagreement. It's just a slightly different type of disagreement. So let's say your company has a mission. Okay. I'll give you a good example, actually. This will be very personal to me. Let's say your mission is that you're a steakhouse, okay, and you want to serve your steakhouse chain, and you want to serve good, high-quality steak to your customers. Like any business, you're going to need different types of diversity to make your business successful. There are certain types of diversity you want, certain types of diversity you don't want. The kinds of diversity you want, you might want people who are good wait staff, you might want people who are good at the cash register, you might have good managers, a good chef, okay. Even the kind of diversity you want, I would add a lot of diversity to the ranks of a steakhouse. I'll tell you why. Because I'm a vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian on principle. It's a part of my religious upbringing, but
I'm pescatarian. I'm pescatarian.
Right. So I don't believe in killing animals for culinary pleasure. It just happens to be a family belief of mine, and that I've raised in and that I raise my kids in as well. I respect the right of the steakhouse to go pursue its own mission. I don't think the government should be stopping them from doing it. But even though I would add diversity to the ranks of the steakhouse, I don't think that that would necessarily make them better because it doesn't align with their mission. So every business has to ask itself what kind of diversity.
Wait. So you're
right. There are useful kinds of diversity, right? You need someone who knows how to do the accounting, someone who knows how to do the marketing, etc. But the point is that when we fixate on stupid forms of diversity, like there's not enough black women who work for this company, that's counterproductive, right? That's completely counterproductive.
saying because
and by the way, maybe something else I should point out is when you hire someone at, let's say, a hypothetical company like Bud Light, right? Like Bud Light, who is totally like not aligned with the culture or the values of the average user base, the customer base of that brand, you get stuff like Dylan Mulvaney. Prime example, I would say. Okay, so I think it's a solid point by Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vegetarian. How would they add you to the? How would you?
I would add diversity. So my point is, I would add
diversity where?
Intellectual diversity,
where?
Diversity of thought to a steakhouse, right? But I wouldn't be a good employee because I'm not aligned with the mission.
Come on, Vivek. Come on, Vivek.
No, come on. The point I'm making is
diversity.
This. Different types of businesses need different types of diversity. That's the whole thing.
Of course.
So how could it be that every business sets the same quota or same target based on race or gender, when in fact every business should say we need this type of diversity, people who have experience in the humanities or math.
They do.
And they already do by focusing on return on equity instead of focusing on actual capital D diversity.
They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand because that CEO, if they can't hit their equity goals, right, their ROE goals, they're getting fired. Right, they're gone.
So that's what it comes down to, the ROE goals, the return on equity goal, which means there's a million factors you got to cover. Why do you want one blanket category of diversity?
It's not one blanket strategy. But no CEO would have a clue.
Okay, so as usual, talking to Mark Cuban is like talking to a complete brick wall. Okay, the point here is this. Nobody has an issue with what Mark Cuban said. Yes, you should look for non-conventional employees. Maybe there's certain skills that are more intangible, whatever. The point is, we should not be hiring people on the basis of their race, and we should not hire someone because they're a minority. Maybe they're less qualified than the white guy, but hey, maybe, we need to hit this target. We need to hit this soft quota. That's what we're saying is stupid. And instead of addressing things that are actually happening perhaps in the workforce, Mark Cuban just, changes the definition of DEI and then says he supports it and then says he loves Kamala Harris and he loves paying taxes. So, interesting character he is. That said, folks, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. Follow me on X and all of my social medias. Link in the description. And until next time, God bless and peace.